Hi, everybody. Welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And I'm here today to show you how well, actually, it's to give you a sneak peek of the Blessings of Home bundle, which is brand new in the upcoming January to June mini catalog. And I wanted to show you how I made this really pretty card that uses it. So the card actually, I'm doing some coloring with my blending blender pen, and just using my ink pads for the ink. So a little bit different, and then a touch of Wink of Stella. So let me switch over to my desktop and we'll get started. All right, here's my card today. Now, I shared this card as part of the Winners International Highlights blog hop, the Winners blog hop. So I was really honored to be in the top 10 and get to participate in this blog hop today. And so this is my card. It features, as I said, the Blessings of Home bundle. Just really pretty line art, and then lots of great sentiments. And then the die cuts. Get this off. Of course, we'll cut out these shapes. The shapes are 90%, which is why that's the die is large. It looks like it's larger. And then this image here. And then you've got all of these extra shapes that they're dies that cut just pieces out that you can use to embellish your card. So it's a really pretty bundle. And the designer series paper is absolutely stunning. For this card, I've chosen this piece in garden green, just with some leaves and stems on it. And I will show you how I made this pretty bow. All right, so let's bring in my supplies. I've got a piece of thick basic white cardstock, and I've cut it 4 1/4 by 11. So I'm just going to bring my trimmer in, and I'm going to score this at 5 1/2. Now, I definitely like to score my thick basic white and thick, very vanilla cardstock, but I tend to score all of mine to make the card base. It just gives you a much nicer than trying to just fold this in half. So I've got this. This is the side that I am scored on, and so I'm going to fold. This is the raised side. I always say I fold into the mountain, or the raised piece. It just gives you a better fold. Grab my bone folder. Just give it a good burnish. All right, and then I've got a piece of the designer series paper. This one is in the garden green on the other side. So one side is all the pretty images. There's flowers and all sorts of pretty colors. And on the other side are all sorts of variations of wood grain in basic gray and white. So either side are really pretty, but I'm using the garden green side. Get some glue. Actually, I think there is a right and wrong way to this, so we'll make sure we've got the leaves going up. All right, so there's my designer series paper. Now I've got a piece of basic white cardstock. So this I've cut 3 inches by 4 1/4, and I'm just going to use it to stamp my image. And because I'm going to be using my blender brush, I'm going to make sure I use my Tuxedo Black Memento ink, the same as if I was using I want to make sure I leave enough room to get my sentiment out of the same piece. Same if I was using the Stampin' blends. I just always use the Tuxedo Black Memento. Okay, so now I've got a blender brush, and I've got my Pale Papaya and Garden Green ink pads. So I'm just going to open up the Garden Green, and I've got some ink here on the lid. If you don't have ink, you can press down on it to get ink in your lid, or you can just pick up some from the foam pad itself. I tend to like to get some ink. And I'm just going to use my ink, just another way to use your ink pads. If you don't want to use your blends, you can use your your water painters if you want to do that as well. If are you doing watercoloring, I definitely would suggest that you use the watercolor paper. But when you're just coloring a little bit with the blends and the ink, it doesn't, it's not liquidy enough that it's going to start making your paper pill. So I'm just kind of coloring. There are a fair number of leaves. When I did this the first time, I actually missed some. And you can do the coloring the same way you do it if you're doing blends or watercoloring. Just start where you want the darkest image to be, and then kind of color out from there without picking up any more ink. And it just kind of gives you the effect of the watercoloring and the variation of colors. Like that. So I've got it lighter towards the tip. All right, we'll keep coloring. Probably should have had one of these all colored and ready to go, but now you'll kind of have to watch me finish coloring so that I can get this card put together. All right. Getting there. That's just a few little leaves up here at the top. All right, I think that's, oh, one there. Okay, so when you're finished coloring, you can just take and keep just running your blender brush over top of your grid paper or scrap of paper, and when it loses its color coming off of it, you're good to go. Now this one, I don't have any ink, so I'm just going to pick up ink from my, now for this, I'm actually going to color these little flowers. And I really need to re-ink my pale papaya. It's definitely looking a little pale here, but that's okay. Looks very subtle. All right, now I really want some darkness here in the center. Of my flower. And do the same in the center there. And then I'm just going to start to go out from there. And I'm actually not going to go all the way to the edge. I'm just going to leave some white. Then it just kind of looks like a variegated flower. That, and then I'm going to use my Wink of Stella to kind of finish it off. Pretty flowers, just so subtle in pale papaya. All right, there we go. I think that's enough ink on them. I'll bring this up a little closer. So hopefully you can see, just by starting at the thick part of the leaf and then coming out, you can get kind of the variegated and softer colors towards the edge. And you can hopefully see that I've just kind of done the center and then come out from there on the big flowers. Now I've got my Wink of Stella. And so I'm just gonna, again, go in the center and then go out from there. Now you probably won't be able to see this effect with the Wink of Stella on here. Now, one trick with Wink of Stella is, if you need to get some more Wink of Stella from the reservoir in here, just make sure that when you press down on here, you've got a scrap of cardstock, because it will come out in a bit of a glob, and you don't want that on your card now, because it will just ruin the effect. There we go. And then you can just pick up from here. Okay, I've got my Wink of Stella. That over. Now I need my die. So we'll just put that die over here, over the image. And I'm going to just take a piece of my Post-it note tape, just to hold that in place, because if it slips, then I get more of the white image where I don't want it. Bring in my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And run this through. Like that. Get over here. All right, so then I can gently pull this off, and I've got my flower image. Now I still need this for the sentiment. Now for my sentiment, I actually only got the thank you. So there's two ways you can do this. I've got my, oops, here it is here. You can either try to ink up your just the thank you part of it, which is what I did, or you can use a marker, not a Stampin' Blend, but a marker, one of the Stampin' Write markers, to color. But I'm just trying to be careful about where I get my ink on this, so that I don't get it on the for inspiring you. So you hopefully can see. So I'm just gently inking it up without trying to get the for inspiring you. It's a little bit fussy, but if you're careful, you can actually do it. And then I'm just going to take and stamp this along the bottom so that you can see I got just the thank you. And then I'm going to take and just cut that. I'm not worrying too much about it. It's more, if you really want it to be kind of perfect, you can either use a die cut or a punch, or you can cut it out in advance using your trimmer. But in this case, I've just cut it with scissors and I'm okay with that. Okay, so cover up that, bring in my card base. Okay, so this is going to go down here, and then these are going to go, flowers are going to go here with some dimensionals. This is just such a pretty bundle. In the bundle, or in the suite itself, it comes, there are actually two bundles. One is this Blessings of Home, and the other is Honeybee Home. Just so pretty. So it's a really great deal. So you get the two bundles in the suite, as well as the designer series paper. There is some denim ribbon, which I'm not using on this card. I wasn't so sure the denim went well with the green. And I'm going to add some of the matte dots that come in it as well. I'll show you those in just a minute. All right, so we're just going to put this down here like that. Now, I'm going to show you how I made this bow. This one that looks like it's all different threads. This ribbon is part of the Artfully Composed suite, which is in the catalog, the upcoming mini catalog. So I'm just going to cut a piece of it that is about 7 inches long. That's probably more than I need, but just don't want to jip myself. Now, take your pick tool. This is similar to a technique that I've used using the Blushing Bride Frayed Grosgrain from the July to December mini catalog. So just take and start using the point and just start pulling until you get some threads coming off of it. So you can see that I've got a thread, and I'm just pulling. And now I start to get all of these threads. Now I'm going to hold these in place so they don't all start to go all over the place and get tangled, because they will start to all get caught up. So you're just going to pull this apart until you have a handful of threads, and you have this piece. Now don't throw this away. This is the thread. This is the thread that you pulled off. Don't throw that away, because it makes great backgrounds of cards. Now you can see that this is quite staticky. I'm only going to use half of it, so I'm going to divide this in half. I did try to use the whole strip of these threads. Save that one because you can make another bow, but it just was too big and bulky. So I've got about half, and now I'm just going to tie a bow with this. It is a bit fiddly, I will admit, because you've got all of these threads that you're trying to hang on to. Gently, trying not to lose my, okay, let's try this again. Many people will say, oh, Melva, it's just too fiddly, I'm not going to do that. But I just love this effect. Okay, so if you can kind of keep it all together, and when you push it through, even take your pick tool to be able to grab all of these threads and not lose these threads. There we go. There we go. Okay, sort of like, oh, no, that didn't work. You know, should make one ahead time so that I don't have to do this. Okay, let's try this again. Really isn't that hard. Okay, I'm thinking too much about it. Let's just do it without thinking about it, what I'm doing, and quickly, and it will. So you can actually trim all of this down once you've got a bow made. Once you've got a bow made, she says. Okay. So now that I've completely convinced you that this is really hard to do, and it's not, it's just a matter of keeping all of your bits together. Then take your pick tool to pull this out. Okay, was it like that? The other thing that you can do, as I struggle with this, is to not, I cut 7 inches, maybe do longer, and then you're not worrying quite so much about getting your not losing the ends. Okay, there we go. Oh, finally. Okay, so yeah, cut it a little bit longer, and then you're not worried so much about losing your tail ends, which is what was happening to me. So it isn't perfect. You see that there are kind of stragglers here, and I'm going to trim, kind of give it a haircut when you're done. Okay, so let's just try and trim these to be all the same length. And then you can also trim these kind of ones, these loose frizzy, if you're like me, I have frizzy hair. I'm used to just kind of dealing with the frizzy ends. So you can just kind of cut these little ends off. Okay, so there we go. A little bit of struggling, but in my, I really love this, so I think it's worth the struggle. And I'm just going to put this on with a glue dot. Like this. And put that right there. Just love the look of that kind of bow. If it's not a bow for you, then you can use some of the crinkled whisper white or white seam binding, or this is quite thick. So you could even cut this in half and cut a bow, but this is just really pretty. This is the frayed ribbon that is part of the Artfully Composed bundle or suite. Okay, and then the last thing I want to do on the front are these. These are the classic matte dots. Comes in 3 different colors, black, gray, very vanilla, and white. And I'm just going to add some of these. Oh, definitely lost that one. Where did it go? There it is. So 2 sizes of each. So I'm just going to add some of these little dots onto my card. And then for the inside, I'm not going to do a sentiment on the inside, but I have cut a piece of the designer series paper that is 4 inches by 1 inch, and I'm just going to adhere this to the bottom just to give a little bit of detail on the inside of my card. I've decided this year I'm going to focus on making sure I finish the inside of cards because I tend to not do that. And then when I go to give a card away, I have to stop and add a sentiment and add something to the inside of the card. All right, so there we go. With the exception of the bow, it's a pretty easy card, and really that bow isn't as hard as I made it look today. Okay. All right, so I hope you'll check out the Blessings of Home bundle from the upcoming catalog. Again, this is a sneak peek. The upcoming catalog goes live January 4th, and you'll be able to put your order in at that point in time. But keep this one on your wish list for sure. I want to say thank you if you've first time you found me on YouTube. Thank you so much for finding me. Hope you'll take the time to subscribe to my YouTube channel. If it's not the first time and you've come back, thank you so much for coming back. I very much appreciate it. Please leave comments because I very much appreciate the comments. If you do have questions about this, you can either leave a question under the video or you can hop over to my blog at stampingwithmelva.com. I will put the link to this blog post right under the video so you can go directly to this blog post. All of the written instructions and measurements for my card will be on my blog. So if you have any question, you've missed anything, you can find it on my blog. And if you're there, you definitely leave a comment. I appreciate those. And if you have questions, just leave a comment because I'm happy to respond. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for joining me. Hope you have a great day. Happy stamping. Bye.